Hi everybody, hope you're doing well. It's Lumberjack Logic Day today here at Twin Tech. So I'm sporting my Lumberjack coat. So I hope everyone's doing well. I wanted to enlighten you as to how bad things have gotten in the IT business in the last couple of years. Let me tell you about a scenario. So a year ago, there was a Java vulnerability, Log4j they called it. Many affected softwares were out there. One in particular that I'm familiar with is Semantic Endpoint Protection and Semantic Endpoint Protection Manager. Particularly the manager is when the client was okay. But anyway, so Semantic, oh, I see we have a bad cat in the background there. Excuse you for a minute. Sorry about that, that was Sparky. Um, so, so Semantic rewrote their software to get rid of that vulnerability. They made some major changes to it. They stopped using a generic database and started using Microsoft SQL Server, which presents a whole bunch of problems when installing their management console. That means you don't want to put it on a domain controller. You probably don't want to put it on a Hyper-V host. Many other problems like that. That's just the beginning. It gets better. So before I roll this out to all my clients, I gotta run through it in a lab to see how bad the upgrade is going to be. Well, it's unbelievable. I've been working on it over a year now. Now, of course, if you saw my Synit rants, you realize that I called Semantic a year ago to try and address the situation, and it didn't go well. And you can look at those videos and see for yourself what I went through, and eventually they basically fluffed me off, and, rather than trying to identify and correct the problem. So let me tell you what the problem was. When I installed the software in any environment, it didn't matter whether it was Windows Server 2012, 2016, 2019, physical machine, virtual machine, new install, upgrade from an old version, doesn't matter. The same thing occurred. When you reboot the machine, some log entries are entered in the security logs, and it has to do with system integrity. I'm going to read you from Microsoft what that means. Error code 5038. Code integrity determines that the image hash of a file is not valid. The file could be corrupt due to unauthorized modification, or the invalid hash could indicate a potential disk device error. So this is a security problem. So these days, anything that's loaded in the kernel must be digitally signed to run on a Windows machine. And the hash is a way to verify that the file is still the same as intended, because the hash is made from the image of the file. So they got a match, or something has been changed. And malicious code is what that prevents against. So keep in mind, we're working with something that is security related, and it has a problem with passing the malicious code problem. And I just installed it. I haven't used it yet, haven't set it up, haven't deployed it. Just in a lab, it's no good. Call support, get no help. So anyway, so a year's gone by. This is 2023 now. I did this late 2021, early 2022. No results. So I waited a year. So I realized sooner or later I got to move forward with this software, because the old software is going to be unsupported at some point, and I don't want to be a crunch having to do everybody all at once. So, okay, so this year I decided, okay, we're going to press on. So the next thing it is, I installed a client on a Windows 10 workstation. Same problem. So the client can't pass the same security checks as the management console either. Same problem. You reboot the machine, 4 or 5 entry lines, code integrity violation. So I figured, that's been a year, right? Somebody solved the problem by now. Let me read you some of the solutions. Okay, keep in mind now, this is a security product. and one of the solutions is from a competitive security product vendor. And I want you to read what the solution is to the fact that their software can't pass a signing check. Anyway, I'm going to finish reading you the Microsoft document on what they say to do about this, generically speaking. So, the file could be corrupt due to unauthorized modification or the invalid hash could indicate a potential disk device error. So keep in mind this happens in all environments, physical, virtual, so disk device is very unlikely. Code integrity is a feature that improves the security of the operating system by validating the integrity of a driver or system file, so executable DLL files, stuff like that. Each time it's loaded into memory, code integrity checks whether an unsigned driver or system file is being loaded into the kernel, or whether a system file has been modified by malicious software that is being run by a user account with administrative permissions. On 64X based versions, the operating system kernel mode's drivers must be digitally signed. There is no example of this inventory in the document, or this event in the document. I have an example. Okay, so there's Microsoft spiel on it, right? Security monitoring recommendations. This is what Microsoft says. We recommend monitoring for this event, especially on high-value assets or computers, because it can be a sign of software or configuration issue or a malicious action. Okay, there's their deal on it. So it's serious shit, right? Okay, now I'm going to start with something called Carbon Black. I'm not familiar with it. Something to do with VMware. I just Googled the error message, and I got a page from them that's dated January 30th, 2023. So it's a couple weeks old, this document. Carbon Black Cloud Sensor, all supported versions, Enterprise Standard, EDR, blah blah blah, all the Windows supported versions. Event ID 5038, System Integrity, Audit Failure, Code Integrity determines, you know what it says, right? Cause, interop issue due to Windows Code Integrity Enforcement. So the operating system doing its job. The event has no negative effect and can be ignored. Okay, so I don't know who these guys are, but that's not a solution. So anytime I see a security check that calls for invalid hash, I should ignore it. Unbelievable. Okay, that's one. Next one. Sophos Corporation, a competitor, security products, right? Now they have a little bit more information, but it's the same crap. Okay, event ID 5038 in server 2016-2019 with Intercept X Advanced for server with XDR. Not sure what all that is. I don't use it. We have had several Windows Server 2016-2019. Poorly phrased sentence. It just dies there. Period. We have several Windows Server 2016-2019. Period. They have installed Sophos Intercept X Advanced for server. After a reboot occurs, the event ID 538. So, same conditions as me. You reboot the machine, you get error messages and security logs. Code integrity, yeah, and it's the same one. And it's a sys file, .sys, that is the culprit on there. So DLL, exe, and sys files, so far is what I've discovered. And there may be more. A reinstallation did not solve the problem. Yeah, boy, could you give me some tip on how to resolve it? Thank you for reaching out to us. Upon checking this event, we see the same scenario for our Sophos Amish provider DLL described in this article. It has been mentioned that the said file is signed by Sophos but not signed by Microsoft, which is expected behavior. And the Windows event can be ignored. Again, ignore it. So you're setting a precedent. So are we just going to ignore all 538 regardless of who they are because you say that it's okay? Why bother checking? Why did we come up with this security check anyway? If the as soon as we deploy it, it's just you just ignore it when it fails. You don't when your antivirus goes, you have a virus. Just go, it's just just ignore it. It's fine. Everything's fine, right? Holy shit! What's wrong with our industry? You can't ignore that. I want the fucking thing fixed, and I want it fixed now. get off your asses, find out what's wrong, sign the file properly, get the hash fixed, do a proper diagnosis and repair the problem, not ignore it. That is not a support option. Anyway, seeing that I'm ranting, I'm going to tell you some other great things. So, anyway, so I had a couple thoughts. I'm going to download the. Hopefully, there's a more recent version of the product I'm using. I'm going to download that from the vendor, see if that still has a problem, which I suspect it does, or hopefully, they've figured out what's wrong and corrected it so you don't get that, and then move ahead with upgrading all my clients. Now, good times at Symantec. Let me tell you. So I've discovered something else too. I did a test deploy in the lab, as I always do, and I tested what it's going to be like to upgrade my clients. So I figured, install the new management console, point all the clients over to it, all good. I just get the console upgraded, and then later on down the road, as time permits and weather permits or whatever, upgrade each client installation on each workstation. Nope, not going to work that way. As soon as I point an old client to the new console, some security features requiring definition updates stop working, and the dates get stale, and then it's flagged as being having old content. It seems the antivirus file updates fine, but proactive networking and 0 days definitions go stale. So I took the one client, put it back on the old console, and it didn't fix it. It's still broken. So as soon as you move the client to the new management console, it's screwed. So that means you're forced to not only upgrade the management console, but then you got to upgrade all the clients, and you don't dare move them until you're ready to do that. So if you got a lot of clients, 50, 100 workstations to do, you better think very carefully about how busy you're going to be, because the moment you touch it, it's going to break, and then I've yet to upgrade my client that is no longer working with the new product and see what kind of crap I'm going to do with it. And keep in mind, every single machine now that I deploy it to is going to have these error messages on logup and the security logs about the hash integrity. How's that for security? Eh? Don't you feel all warm and fuzzy? Oh, nothing can go wrong, eh? It's just fabulous. I love IT. Anyway, it's getting really bad. We rely on this shit for everything, and they come up with all these mind-numbing security features, and then they tell you to ignore them when they're triggered. It's unbelievable how bad it's getting. Anyway, thought you might want to know what the life in the IT world is like for those guys you have to call, and why they groan when you call and you sound stupid and you don't know what you're doing, because we need all the help we can get, and everybody's got to become informed on how these things work and be prepared to deal with them. Thanks for listening, everybody. Take care.